resign over its failure to gain the release of hostages held by Hamas.
Protesters from various anti-government organizations, including Brothers in Arms, engaged in confrontations with law enforcement officials.
Cyber attacks against water utilities across the country are becoming more frequent and more severe, the Environmental Protection Agency warned.
Approximately 70% of utilities inspected by federal officials over the last year violated standards meant to prevent breaches or other intrusions, the agency said.
The death of Iran's president is unlikely to lead to any immediate changes in Iran's ruling system or to its overarching policies. New York City Mayor Eric Adams defended the police department's response to a pro-Palestinian street demonstration in Brooklyn over the weekend.
Look at that entire incident, Adams said on the Mornings on One program.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host or guest and should not be interpreted as statement of fact. That abrupt end independent fact-checking and corrections are
got to work on your AI, people.
We got a cup of coffee in here, please.
I got it. I got it. I got you. I got your back. I got your back and I got your front. I got your front and back.
Damn,
front
it's hot and hot.
I got your back and front. Front to back.
My dog is your mind's best friend.
Yes, indeed.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking.
Wake up, TG.
That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with a Dog. You make me laugh.
We've had some major delay issues going on here. That's one thing. Good morning, folks over there. I usually let the band finish, but I'm not going to let the band finish. I'm going to cut them all. I'm pull the plug. Speak up behind them and pull the plug on their amplifiers. We're having some weird streaming issues, different networks reporting all sorts of different things here. But the radio signal is good and strong. So there's that. Good morning, folks. It is Wednesday, hump day, May 22nd, 2024. A lot of twos in that. Good to have you here. It looks like it's going to be another beautiful spring day here. I have to apologize about yesterday. Rookie mistake. I don't know. It takes two clicks to end this program. And I did them both. I was trying to say goodbye to Gov's Comedy Network, somewhere almost 2-hour mark, and hit the end stream button twice to end the program, and then said, oops. That's a rookie mistake. I apologize for that. Apparently, no harm was done because not a lot of people gave a shit, but there it is. If you don't know, Sir Robin chickened out, and so did Donald Trump. You have to let the band finish. Don't be a rock tease. Rock tease. I'm a rock teaser, and never mind. So anyway. Yeah, Donald Trump chickened out yesterday. Now, if you know, even some of the loyal Trumpers were saying he has to testify. They were looking forward to him to get up on the stand and say, I never fucked that woman. Or I never had sex. Yeah, I never had sex with that woman, Ms. Daniels. Through the Bill Clinton thing. He learned that from Bill Clinton. But he apparently didn't like the idea of going to jail for perjury instead, so he's just going to roll the dice with the jury on this. Whatever. Run away, Sir Robin. You chickened out. So, yeah, other than that, I don't really give a fuck what's in the news. We just lost everything. One of our authors, the first author, Bjorn Leeson, has chickened out. Well, no, he hasn't chickened out. He has an emergency, and he won't be with us this morning. And I'm not crying. I'm not crying over that. It's you know what? We've had no shows before, but it's a low energy week. Tomorrow, Chris Monty, my friend and a very active working headlining comedian, will be with us. And on Friday, we have Brian Plackett, who's going to talk about how to respectfully disagree with people. Which, you know, I agree not to agree. Or agree to disagree, or disagree to agree, or something. Anyway, so we don't have Steven again. I think Steven had a power outage yesterday. A pole, a transformer blew or something. Don't know that he's got power back yet. We'll see. I don't know. We'll deal with it. We roll with the punches around here. Whatever happens, happens. Right now, I'm going to play you some Mind Bloom stuff. And listen, if you're on ketamine therapy, don't kill that guy's mom over in the UK. That's all I'm saying. Just don't. We'll get to some interesting chat right after we drop a couple of hits of ketamine, put on our isolation glasses. Here you go.
Mind Bloom is helping people achieve life-changing clinical and personal breakthroughs, alchemizing both the psychedelic medication, psychiatric care from psychiatric clinicians, coaches, we call psychedelic guides, and a lot of content and meditations and programs into this really transformational experience that, because it's delivered at home, costs a lot less and is a lot more convenient for people to receive.
Who's going to be stealing my spot today? It's Ron. Of course it's Ron. Good morning, gentlemen. Morning. Ron, you're muted.
Hey, guys. I had an emergency. I'm going to cut out. It looks like our dog is finally reached the end. So I had to make an appointment. So I'm just gonna go.
All right. I'm sorry, man. Be well, and you know what? If you need to talk about your dog, call. That's all
right.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thing.
See you guys.
Bye. Wow. So it's just me and you, and you're in my spot. Get out of my spot.
Just like the old days, back when we first started.
Just like the old days.
Like 600 episodes ago.
Yeah. Remember back in the old days, the good old days when it would be like Willie wouldn't show up, and then he would show up, and then he'd have delay issues, and
he'd be like 4 seconds after you.
Yeah. You got no sound, bro. Yeah, it was all of that. Things have changed, but
over 600 episodes, we've done a lot together.
Yeah. Because this morning, one of the reminders of the one, that old lady that let's talk about sex, and she was like an old kinky author or whatever.
Dr. Ruth.
Yeah. And that Willie was not. He wanted to talk, but he was so far delayed with her that every time he talks, it was so the entire almost 2 hours is him and her talking over each other.
Between her hearing aid being on delay and his thing being on delay, it was like they were like a minute behind each other.
Yeah. All right. So it's you and me. We can get into some politics here.
Okay.
Because
can I talk to my cup first?
Huh?
My cup. I gotta talk to my cup.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot about the cup.
Yeah.
It's been one of those mornings.
Yeah. Good morning, America. MindDogTV.com. Look your best while showing off your breasts that you marinated for days before throwing it on the grill. Go to MindDogTV.com for all of your fashionable feasting needs. MindDogTV.com. Enjoy the suffering.
I don't know if we're on Facebook today because I was banned from streaming live to Facebook because of the frog video, the frog and the scorpion thing.
I know what happened with that. There was nudity in that thing.
Nudity?
Yeah, that frog was showing its cloaca out to everybody. It was like full-blown cloaca right out there for everybody to see. I didn't believe that they didn't. First, I thought you was just going to blur it out, that frog cloaca. But you didn't blur it out. So I said, man, Matt is bold. And then you took the chance. It's like, no, I'm an artist. I'm gonna take a chance. And look what happened.
Actually, the AI as he did it, I didn't even really look at it.
Okay. That's weird. The AI, because the whole fable is the frog and the scorpion, and in that, in the
alligators,
the alligators. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, does AI not know the difference between an alligator and a scorpion and a frog?
It probably does, but it's like, you know what? We don't have a good. We only have 2 pictures of frogs and scorpions, and we're going with the one. Yeah, so we're kind of halfway live. It's like at a live circle. It says we're live, but there's nothing showing on your. Yeah. Fuck it. Whatever. I'm not gonna pay attention to this. Whatever happens, happens. That's all I know. But your buddy, your pal, Joe Biden, apparently put out a hit on Donald Trump, according to Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's kind of funny. Now, because I would like Biden more if that was actually true. I would definitely, I support putting Joe Biden putting out a hit on Donald Trump. Hey, listen, the president needs immunity, right?
But that's what SEAL Team 7 is for. SEAL Team 7 is actually designated to take out political enemies and rivals. So it's not.
But
SEAL
he really
Team
didn't.
6. He didn't?
But so what she's saying, by her saying that, she's hoping to inspire the MAGA nut jobs to do some violence against Joe Biden. That's her intent. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. She's trying to incite an assassination attempt against Joe Biden. That's what. Because
there could be like a retired military guy who thinks, well, the president says to do it, I might as well take Trump out. You know, there could be like one of the crazies on the left.
But the fact of the matter is, the use of deadly force when you're going to apprehend top secret documents that have been stolen is it's just on the warrant. It's like by route. It's just, something and he wasn't even there. And they know he wasn't there. And everybody knew he wasn't there. So stop with that stuff. But I think she definitely, that's her intent. She wants to get people to take him out or attempt to take him out.
And she also wants donations, because more important than actually taking out Biden is she wants her crazies to donate to her. Because I'm pretty sure Reddit, she said that. She said, so donate money to my campaign, and I'll give $5 over to Donald Trump so that he can have a Kevlar vest that would fit, because they can't find one his size right now.
She won her primary last night.
Oh! I forgot to check on the primaries in Georgia.
You know why? Because she wasn't running against anybody, but she's bragging that she won this. She ran unopposed.
And what she get 30%?
Yeah, I won in a race that I was the only person running. I won by a significant margin.
Yeah, I wanted to find out about Fonnie Willis. I can check that out. I wanted to see if she won her primary. She did? Yeah, thank goodness. Because if she didn't win, you don't know that the next person, if they keep dragging it out and delaying, the next DA may not pick up where she left off.
Drop the case. Just drop it. Yeah. But no, she won convincingly.
All right. All right.
Which is surprising. Are you a little surprised by that? Georgia, that there's a county in Georgia that is supportive of the prosecution of Trump.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that it's because because you have to look at it by districts. And how they redistrict things, and they know they have like so many black people, so they try to consolidate the power into one place, so they don't have the power all over the place. Even though they're only like what, 23%
Fulton
of the
County,
state.
which is Atlanta, the city of Atlanta is but the state is very red. They've had Republican governors after Republican governors. I think they got Marjorie Taylor Greene as one of the Congress people. Like, Jesus.
Yeah,
you don't get any redder than that.
The state is not for it, because that's why as soon as she started a prosecution, they said, well, we're going to have to find a way we need legislation so that we can fire DAs that aren't doing what we want them to do.
Yeah.
So
if there were a civil war, would Atlanta be alone, Fulton County be alone in like fighting its way? It'd be like Gaza in the middle of Georgia's Israel.
The only problem that would is the advantage that section has is that Tyler Perry has a studio down there, and they are not going to let Tyler Perry's studio go up in flames. They will defend that studio. That's like the Capitol Dome, like defending the Capitol. You defend Tyler Perry's studio.
I don't. Is that that's where Steve Harvey does his show, right?
I think so.
Tyler, I didn't know. Is it a movie studio? Tyler Perry.
Well,
listen to me.
I think so. It's a production studio. I mean, he produces movies. So I'm assuming you wouldn't have to spend all that money on the studio that couldn't produce movies, especially since he makes movies.
But it's only for black people, right? I couldn't get in there, but you could.
Well, you could get in. You could be friended in. It's like the grandfathering clause.
I thought it could be like a janitor or something, just like kind of reparations.
Yeah, but I may not be able to get in because I'm not a Madea fan. I'm not a Tyler Perry fan. I have not liked anything he's done except for not show up on television.
Well, if I'm honest, I've never. I know as much about him as I know about Taylor Swift's music. Damn it, you scared? No, we have bad news to report. Stephen, who is Ron Kane's dog, is on his last legs. Oh, last legs. Oh,
that's it. And I was so tempted. I was so tempted when Ron said that his dog was on his last leg. I said, "Isn't that your wife's pet name for her vibrator?" That's what I was going to say, but
he looked genuinely sad, and that's a terrible thing when your dog goes. But and not to belittle his pain, not at all, but it can't be a surprise. Like dogs just don't get on their deathbed when you wake up in the morning. Like they were fine yesterday. He was a puppy yesterday. You had to know it was coming and prepare yourself.
Now with our cat, we didn't know it was coming because we had no idea he had a heart murmur. And we took him to a vet every 6 months, and they never detected his heart murmur. And then one night I came home and he was like panting on the front stoop with his last kill.
You took your cat to the vet. Did you have like cat health insurance or something? How do you take a cat to a vet every 6 months? I can't. Humans can't go to doctors every 6 months in this country.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? He was a star. He was bigger on the internet than I was. Yeah. Not that mattered. I mean, not that there's much to compare to, but yeah. No, I did.
Because when we bought the cat had what my wife said. Oh, that's a tumor on his leg. I was like, I don't know. It looks like a lump. What's the difference? So, but it's $2,500 to cut his leg off, and I was like, "Are we sure?" They had to do the cancer tests and all. Huh?
That's you said $2,500. That's
that's a lot of money, cash, because they don't take any kind of like insurance or you had to come up with cash for that. So yeah, $2,500. And my brother was like, "How much does it cost to put the cat down?" Like $125 to put the cat down, $2,500 to cut his leg off, and then you have to kind of like baby him for the next. Actually, the cats, I have to say this, cats are not like humans. You could cut off a cat's leg at 9 o'clock in the morning, and by 7 or 8 o'clock at night, it's like ready to resume life. Like,
we had that with we had 2 boy cats, and we took them to the vet to have their baby testicles removed. And I'm saying their baby testicles because apparently they grew back because those cats were you couldn't tell that they were neutered. You couldn't tell. Because they were so, I hate to even think of what it'd be like if they hadn't had the testicles cut off. But
baby testicles.
So we took them in. They had them cut off, and then the doctor says, "Look, when you get back, they're going to be really groggy. They're going to be out of it. So just open the carriers, and when they're ready, they'll come out." I was like, "Okay." Took them home, opened the carrier, and bam, they took off. They were like, you ever watch Speed Racer and how Racer X and all those guys drove up the mountains? As soon as we open up the thing, the cats are running up the side of the sofas, climbing the walls, just like Speed Racer. They're chasing each other. It's like
maybe they were looking for their balls. Like, where I leave them? I know I left them over here.
I was thinking that the reason why Speed Racer and them can do that is because they don't have balls. I think it's like the drag. I think the balls give them drag. You take off the balls, there's no drag. It's all lift, and they can do that. That's why those cars. That's my conclusion. That Speed Racer and Racer X and all those other guys, they have no balls. They just have all
Seems to make sense if you look at what was the guy Lance Armstrong, that you go faster without. He won without a ball.
Right, because when you're riding a bicycle, your testicles are on that seat, and you have to keep adjusting, and it just does. But if you just have one, you just lean to one side where there's no pressure, and you go. That's it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not getting my balls cut off, even though I don't use them for anything. They're more like I don't know, like decorations. Ugly, like dried up fruit decorations.
And good morning, foul-mouthed teacher and evil Ian and Henry Creel. Good morning.
Henry Creel, best view.
Henry Creel won. I guess there's
what are
others.
Are you trying to sell me something there, Twitch guy? Henry Creel's on Twitch. He's got a little Twitch to him. I know how to time travel, but only forward at regular speed. Yeah, is that a Mitch? Is that a Mitch Hedberg line?
I thought it was Steve Wright.
Oh, you're right. That's correctly. I think. I don't know. What am I?
It's one of those two though, because those two are the only two people I can think of that told those kinds of jokes and made them funny.
I couldn't click that link. It's not a link for us, by the way, Ian. So it's just like URL.me. I'm not even going to say what it is for people on the radio. But now people come in here selling viewers. Like, how does that work? You're gonna you take my money. If I give you $1 and you give 1 penny each to 100 people and force them to watch this against their will.
Well, they create 100 viewers out of using AI. They create 100 accounts, and
that's what I think.
Yeah.
And how does that help me? How does that benefit me in any way?
You feel good when you see your numbers pop up.
Oh, I thought it would make me feel good that I don't have to carry around that extra $1. It's so heavy in my pocket.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
$100 or $1,000 or $100,000 that you want me to put in there. Speaking of $100,000, yesterday I had to change because this week is the big grand opening weekend for summer, big gig. So I'm changing strings on 20 different guitars, and went to
that's about $100,000.
Yeah, I can't believe the price of strings now. And I did cheap out on acoustic strings. And on one of my acoustic guitars, I put together a Frankenstein kind of string set, which is kind of weird. Like, it wasn't, they were strings from different 12-string sets.
Yeah. I used to do that on purpose. I mean, that was how I got my distinct sound that people didn't like.
Well, I like it. It's a little different. It feels a little weird because everything's super light. Like it feels like electric guitar Frankenstring. Yeah. Well, Eddie Van Halen had Frankenstrat, right? This is the Franken acoustic. It feels good. It doesn't have the greatest tone, but the guitar is not really built for acoustic tone anyway. The electronics in it, really good acoustic tone when you plug it in, but it's like one of these cheap little, actually it's a lag. Have you ever heard of lag guitars? LAG.
No.
Cheap. It's all plastic tuners, plastic pegs and all that stuff, but it's the best sounding acoustic that when it's plugged in, the electronics in it, there's something special about it that makes it actually sound like an acoustic guitar, not an electric when you plug it in.
Wow.
So I spent the day.
What was your first guitar?
My very first guitar that I bought, I remember I bought it from a barber shop. It was $5. It was hanging in the window. It had no name on it. And the action was it was like really bad. My first guitar that my mom bought for me sometime around 9 years old was a Madeira electric guitar that was built. It had a double nut on it.
Okay.
And I don't think it was imperfect or something. I still don't have any really good good guitars. My whole life, I haven't had wow, that guitar is like, it's not like Jackie's Strat.
Oh no, I've never had my first guitar was there used to be a company called Best, and they sold like they sold like almost everything. Not Best Buys, but Best, and it was like you could go in and buy jewelry, you go to another department over to find clothing, another department over to find musical equipment, and they had like a guitar and amplifier set for $99. And had the worst whammy bar. You use it once and everything is just and it never gets back with the big thick spring. So I that was my first guitar. It looked like a Mustang. That's what it looked like. Like a Mustang. And it sounded like a Mustang. Not the guitar, but the horse. Like clop, clop, clop. It wasn't and it actually had two sounds. If you cranked it, it sounded like the guitar from "We Are the Champions." No,
We Will Rock You, right?
Well, it's "We Will Rock You." We are the champions, and "We Are the Champions." You know, it's like that. Is the solo between the two songs. You know, that's the sound it made when you cranked it up. Now, the other sound, its clean sound, sounded like the clap. You know, like Steve Howell. So that was the two extremes. Those were the only two sounds it made, and I don't think it was on purpose. I don't, but
but that Brian May sound, you could probably sell it just for that sound, just because that's a sound that people struggle to get. I gave up trying. So
I never did it because except it was an accident. It's not like I did it on purpose. That's just where the amp sounded. With that guitar, that combination, when you cranked it up, that was the sound. And I didn't want to sound like that because I didn't want people to think that I was trying to rip off Brian May's sound, especially since I'd only been playing guitar for like an hour when I found this out. I couldn't play like Brian May if I wanted to,
Right.
But I could make that sound and I could hit those two notes. Like I could go like, thank you. I'll be here all week learning how to play the rest of the song. Thank you.
There was an old guy. He was a teacher, my age or older, white-haired dude. His students made him go on America's Got Talent, and he played "We Will Rock You," but he did not play that part. Which, to me, if you're gonna go on there and do that, you got to do the Brian May solo. But he played the melody. And he was doing a lot of whammy bar and stuff and all that stuff. But he played the melody to "We Will Rock You," and that doesn't show me anything. And he was, he was doing tapping and whammy bar stuff. But when it came to the solo part, he punked out. Like, come on, that's the part. That's the guitar part. Reminded me.
I'll say that's like the guitar solo in Bohemian Rhapsody. When I used to play in an orchestra, and the keyboard player, I could not play that solo. Like I could never play that solo like that. I could fake it, and people go like, "Wow," because they don't realize they're not hearing all the notes. They're filling in the notes I'm missing. But I did it so cleanly that everybody just, "Wow, he's really good." It's like, "Wow, I really got you fooled." But this one kid played it on the piano, and he got to that solo, and he's just like note for note on the fucking piano, and I was like, "Little Asian kids, I can't stand you."
He's using the A word.
He was so fucking good.
Yeah, 2004 we had for about 5 gigs in a row we had a sax player with us, and the sax player didn't know any sax solos, but he knew every guitar solo. He knew every guitar solo, note for note. He could play all the guitar solos on the sax, but he couldn't play. When we played to do like Respect or anything with a sax solo in it, he was lost. Like, dude, why don't you just play guitar? You know you want to.
Then he could just do all the sax solos on guitar.
Yeah.
I know the first band I played in, the first real band I played in was, I didn't know how to play lead guitar back then. I was strictly rhythm, which is why they hired me. They got me because they knew I wasn't an egotist, so I had to have all the guitar solos. And so all the guitar solos were done by a violinist, a guy named Vernon Mahable. He had an electric violin, and he was the most talented musician I'd ever played with. I mean, we used to cover stuff like Birds of Fire and John McLaughlin, Mahavishnu Orchestra, and he would listen to it once, one time, and he'd go like, "I got it, man." That's how he talked. He was Italian Indian like Hindu. His father was Hindu, his mother was Italian, and so and he had this weird olive complexion, and he was like, "I got it, man. I got it." I said, "Wait a minute, Bernard. The rest of us had to take another week to learn this song." He goes like, "Oh, it's so simple, man. The only thing he's doing this Phrygian mode, and then he's like overlaying it with like the ionic scale, and he's whatever. He just and so that's how he just talked to you. Like everything was so simple, and like, why don't you get it, you idiot? How come you can't play all the John McLaughlin stuff, you idiot? What's wrong with you?" It was just
that
so
dude
good.
grew up eating curry meatballs.
He grew up becoming a Hare Krishna, and he sold all of his equipment.
Wow.
He quit music. Yeah. He called me collect from he went to Berkeley. He had a scholarship to Berkeley, and he called me like 2 weeks in. He called me collect, and I said, "Hello." He goes, "You ever collect call from Brendan Mahabal and Berkeley, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll accept. My mother's going to pay the bill anyway. I'm still in high school." so, so I said, "Yeah, what's up?" And he goes, "I have found paradise." And I thought he was talking about Berkeley, like I found paradise. He goes like, I said, "Okay, great. That's great." He goes, "Yeah." And then he starts talking about Hare Krishna. He goes, "Yeah, Lord Krishna has saved my life and turned it around. And I don't need all this music crap and all these possessions. They're holding me down. They're making me unhappy." I said, "You don't sound happy now." He goes, "No, I'm extremely happy." And then I said, "Vernon," I said, "You called me collect. So since I'm paying for this call, actually my mother's paying for this call, but since the Fendersons are paying for this call, we're going to talk about what I want to talk about. So we're not talking about Krishna. We can talk music, we can talk education, we can talk about world famine, but we are not talking about Krishna." He goes, "Okay, let's talk about famine. We feed a lot of people here, the Krishnas. We get together, we collect money, we send us." That's it, Vernon. I swear to God, if you mention Krishna's name one more time, I'm hanging up on you. And he goes, "I won't say Krishna anymore. Hi, Rama." And I hung up on him, and that was the last time I heard from him.
Wow. I did not know that Krishna and music were exclusive.
Well, anything other than tambourines. I think you can do tambourines in airports. I think they have like a contract with a tambourine company. And Vernon was a violinist, so that's obviously violates the contract.
I had a kid who was percussion that they fucking play, and he was doing a concert with like the world's most renowned sitar player. This guy was supposedly like Mr. Badass. The kid was only 12 years old, and it was like a privilege to play with him. The kid's father wanted me to help him edit a video for it, and you got to understand this music, and he's trying to count out like 9/8 into it changes every fucking measure. It's like, yeah, I'm really white, dude. I'm basically a 4/4 guy. And even that sometimes I have to question: is this 4/4 or 2/4? I don't know, but that music is just this. What they go in semitones and odd time signatures. Like, what planet is that music on?
I only did that to because I was not a great guitar player. But what I really was good at was like I knew like 88 scales. I knew like every freaking guitar scale I could possibly know, and I didn't have a problem with hemitones and I didn't have a problem with that. It didn't bother my ear, and so I would like play like that and do those scales and the weird time signatures just so I could be different from all the other guitarists that were way more talented than me. I was just trying to compensate.
I think Zappa got away with that. People called Zappa a genius and a great guitar player because of that, like because people didn't know what he was doing. But I don't think he was really all that skillful or talented. I obviously was smart and studied music, but and had a real good grasp of theory and all that stuff. But when I see him play some of those solos that people say, "Oh, incredible genius," I'm like, No, I don't think I don't get it. Generally, I think if it's a genius, it's pretty easy to see for everybody. I could be wrong. I'm wrong about a lot of things.
And there was this guitarist, a guy named Jim Taberzi. I used to idolize him when I was in college. And my main reason for idolizing him, because when I got to college, I'd only been playing guitar for like 2 years. I started when I was 17. So I was like, 18, 19 when I ran into him, and I'd only been playing for a little bit. And I had, I had a couple of covers under my belt. Like I could play Roundabout. I could play the first half of Mood for a Day. I was really into Yes. I mean, I loved Yes and Queen. So I saw Jim Taberzi, and I met him, and he was playing Mood for a Day. And I said, that's it. I can watch and learn how to play the stuff that I have trouble with. And I'm watching him, and he goes, he introduced himself, and he says, "You play guitar?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I've been working on that for like weeks. How are you doing that?" And he showed me. He broke it down for me, and then showed me how to play it. And then I got it, and I said, "Oh, this is great." I said, "Man, you must be really good." He goes, "Oh, that's nothing." He says, "Do you know how to play the clap?" And I was like, "You know how to play the clap?" He played the clap. And I was like, "Son of a bitch! I think I love you. I want to have your baby." And so. I said, where'd you learn? He turns out he went to Peabody. And I said, I want to go to Peabody so I can learn to play like you. He goes, you don't want to go to Peabody. He goes, they're just trying to crank out machines. You'll lose your individuality if you go to Peabody. You won't be the same person when you come out. And when he said that got into my head. And as a result, I bucked all kinds of efforts to train me as a musician, which is part of the reason why I never got much better. Wow. It's like, because he says they're just going to crank you. They're just going to make you into their image. And I rebelled against it. So I stayed sucky for my whole life.
It's funny how things can fucking, just like one sentence somebody says can have that much of a profound effect on your psyche for the rest of your life. I got a bunch of those where.
And to this day, when people try to help me, I have to overcome that part of my brain that says they're just trying to make you in their image. It's like, I was 18, I'm 64, so that's like been 20 years now. I will not look. I will not. I have to overcome that when people try to help me.
I'm gonna text Jesse Waters and see if he could do that math for me. He's busy working a shift at McDonald's today. I forgot. I'm sorry. Yeah, so the author that was supposed to be here, I think he is. I think he had to take his dog too to be put down.
I think he sprung his tongue trying to pronounce those names. I'm glad he's not here, because every time I'm sorry, I'm not an illiterate person, but when it comes to some languages, like you was talking about how
doctor. The rules of doctor.
Yeah, is the first D silent, the third D silent? It's got like 3 Ds in a row in a sentence. I don't know.
It's like, all silent. It's just the runes of. But you wouldn't know that from looking at it. It's the runes of. But it turns out Bjorn Leeson.
Yeah.
Is like Joe Smith wherever in the Norse world. Like, there's so many of them. I Googled them and I was like, I don't know which one is this guy. And then there's more than one Bjorn Leeson that's an author, and one of them, it could be this guy, I don't know, because we're not going to get to meet him now, is like incredibly successful. He's like the Stephen King of the Norse world. So who knows? But we will never know now. But I don't think that guy would want to would reach out to me about being on this podcast and then cancel last minute, like literally,
unless
8 o'clock this morning.
If he didn't book it himself, like if he has like an agent who's not familiar with American culture and says, we're going to try to get you in the American market. You know who's really popular today? Mad Dog. Yeah, this guy here, Mind Dog. I'm sorry, but no. You can't get Mad Dog. Okay, let's try to get his younger brother then, but Mad Dog is the one you want. He's the really popular one. But okay, we'll get you a Mind Dog.
Yeah, Mad Dog is popular among divorced, not divorced, soon to be divorced, 40-year-old MILFs who see him as safe because they think and they're right. He's an old man who's not gonna try to fuck them. So he's like in the friend zone of every woman who's ever gone to AA.
And they also figure they have an exit strategy. He's got like 12 types of cancer, so they know it's not going to be a long-term relationship. At least they think it's not going to be a long-term relationship.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just
he's got cancer of the cancer. He's got cancer of the cancer.
Right, his cancer cells have cancer.
Yeah,
that's the problem. All his cancers died of cancer long ago. Yeah. So Bjorn Leeson. I don't know if he's going to reschedule or not, or perhaps he caught yesterday's show and said, "I don't want to be a part of this. These guys are," or 2 days ago, or whenever we had that author on that Ron kind of dissed.
Oh yeah.
He was bored. I don't. I can understand. Not everybody is into some of the fictional stuff. And Norse. What we were going to talk about today was a Norse woman of the Viking Age. Not an ordinary Norse woman of the Viking Age. Now, to be honest with you, I'm surprised the Vikings had any woman. I thought they had no women, which is why they went around raping rape and pillage and plunder the rest of Europe. Like all they had was like beastly women. Let's go down, fuck where they have some nice women.
Well, apparently, if I understand Norse mythology correctly, and I don't because I'm making this up, that the Viking women, their vaginas all had teeth, which is why they went to other places for their women because they just the vaginal
Vagina dentata.
Yeah, that's it with the calcium deposit teeth and stuff, and that's why they went up for women.
I think that was from a Carlin thing where he talked about the vaginal teeth, and he called it vagina dentata, and I said it as if it was a real medical condition. Or something.
It is a real medical condition. Now, my understanding about one case was that it was actually a unformed twin, and that's like where the mouth wound up being at the teeth, and that was one case, and that was one theory. Yeah, and.
There was a case.
I had to meet her. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I marry her. There was a case where my mother was an administrator of a hospital. I don't know how real this is, but this is what she told me. A baby was born pregnant. Like it was supposed to be twins, I guess, but the baby was born with a fetus inside it. That's like born pregnant. So
who's the father?
Fucking freak. Yeah, I know. The father is the father.
Wow.
Yeah, creepy.
In the South, I could see that, but you're talking New York. This is in New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see that in the South.
Or in Kentucky, yeah. I was Reed Radcliffe's mother. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Reed.
Now we know where Reed went. He was the child.
Yeah, if you're insulted, come back and tell me about it.
Cuss us out.
Because we miss you, Reed. You know what? I almost want to base a script on the missing, the Reed story. Like, where'd he go? What happened to him? He's missing in action. All these people attacking me on Facebook. What's going on?
At the bike last night at the doghouse, Ron was doing his usual stuff, his dark, sick humor, and this one woman was laughing so hard. She was snorting. She almost spit her beer. And every time she laughed, she apologized to Ron. She goes, "I'm so sorry. You must think I'm an awful person." And Ron goes like, "No, as long as you're laughing, enjoy yourself." And he tell another sick joke, dark, sick joke, and she start laughing more and spitting more. And the only thing I kept thinking was, man, if I don't make her laugh as hard, I'm a failure. I don't want to have to follow Ron and can't make her laugh like that.
So you were when I saw pictures. You were there last night.
Yeah.
How far is that from you again? That's like an hour drive.
It's an hour and 15 minutes.
That's crazy, man. I don't know how you do it. I would.
It's funny. She'd after it was over with, she was her husband was talking to Ron, because he actually, the husband had actually seen me perform like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And he actually says, I've been on stage with you. I said, really? He goes, yeah, I did 3 minutes. He goes, and I bombed. And I remembered his face, but I don't remember any of his material. But he goes, I was on stage, he says 3 years ago, and he told me the place. I said, no, that's 5 years, because that place has been gone. That place is under new management. So that place is gone.
Yeah. The pandemic started 4.5 years ago, so anything after that,
so
you probably closed down for 1.5 years. Right.
Well, they went under new management. Well, their old management, they wouldn't have made it anyway. The old management, he had lots of ideas, lots of really, really good ideas. That if he could have just focused on one and just did them one at a time, over time, it'd have been great. But he was trying to do all of them at once, and he didn't have the capital to do it. And so he had all these half-finished projects for that club, and he basically killed himself or dreamed himself to death. So
wow.
the lady was talking to me, and she this is the first time she'd ever been to an open mic, and she was like, "This is fantastic." She goes, "I never even knew things like this existed." And then she looked at me because, like I said, Ron and I are the only two comics that were there. Again, we don't have comics showing up. And so like Ron did like 25, 30 minutes. I did 25 minutes. I know I did 25 minutes because my camera recorded 28. It takes me like a half a minute to get up to the stage and another minute and a half to get back to turn the camera off. So I performed about 25 minutes last night. And
but there are patrons coming. There's only the two of you, but there's customers coming, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the point of doing it if it's an empty room? But so you got customers coming out on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
That's unusual.
What's unusual to me is that there's no comedians.
Yeah.
But now, in fairness, is like one like we were Ron and we were like we had so many people in there. It was like, my God, can we sell this? Just me and him. And then the next week we had like 5 comedians sign up and no customers. Not one customer showed up for the open mic. It was like, fine, it's like we can't have comedians and customers. We can have one or the other. And so Ron and I
will take the customers then.
Yeah, so Ron,
bring us customers.
Ron and I did the set, and when the lady's over, when we're done, the lady says to me, I've never been to an open mic before. And she goes, you guys get paid for this? And I said, no. I said, open mics, we don't get paid. I said, Ron gets paid because he's the host and he runs this. So he gets compensation. And she goes, so why do you do it? And I said, well, and I looked at it and I thought, and I had all these things in my head, all these answers I wanted to give. And I said, well, an open mic for us is like a dress rehearsal in theater. This is where we get to try out our material to see if it's going to work, what's funny, work on our timing and stuff like that. She goes, but how do you do it for free? And she says, and it is dawned on me because in the beginning of my set, she was like cracking up. She was just laughing. And then she stopped laughing and she just started staring at me like this for like a minute. And then she goes back to laughing. And it turns out when she did that, she was trying to figure out how I could do what I was doing on stage. She was just like, I don't get it. I don't understand how he's doing that. And for free.
Like with me and with music, it's like, it's not how does he do it, but why does he do it?
That's the other thing. She was like, and you do this for free? I'm like, what she does not know about comedians and being whores and us being underserved as far as, we're all over the country doing this for free, open mics. Join my cause.
John Palermo got Jay Leno on his show. I don't know how the fuck he got Jay Leno on his show, but that gives me hope that I could get Jay Leno. Now, I was a huge Leno fan in 1982, 83, when he was a big time guest on, he was a steady guest on Late Night with Letterman when Letterman first started. And I thought, well, he would come out and do his stand up bit, and then he would go back to the couch and do or the chair and do What's My Beef, Dave bit. And I thought he was hysterical then. But, I stopped being a fan of his before he got the Tonight Show, when he became a regular guest host of the Tonight Show. Not like I didn't like him, it's just like I was interested in him. But that would be a major guest to get Jay Leno on this program. Now, I'm kind of hopeful now that if Pavaramo can get him to do something like this, I think I could get him. I don't know.
Sure.
We'll see.
Who's his agent?
I don't know what I would talk. I'm not I got no interest in cars. I have no interest in the Hollywood, the Tonight Show and billions of dollars and all that stuff, and just like being among the in crowd. I have no interest in the Letterman-Leno war that went on, but they're still friends. I have no interest in that, so I don't know what I would talk to him about other than,
talk to him about that. There was a movie called The Late Shift, I think it was called. The Late Shift.
Yeah,
talk to him about that.
Right?
No, it was about the battle between Leno and
the guy who wrote the book about the Late Shift. He was in a movie called Late Nights something, where he was a cab driver before he became anything on television. It was like a 70s movie. He was like a kid. He was a cab driver. Yeah, you could talk about but I'm sure he's talked about that and the bullshit that's in that, or what's right and what's wrong in that book and the movie so many times that he'd be sick of it. The only thing that Leno has that I would really be interested in is first the comedy club, the Comedy Store, when him and Leno and everybody else who was in L.A. at the time, it was like 1979, went on strike to get paid $25 to do a set there, because before then Mitzi would never pay anybody.
Right, she either let you sleep there or sleep with her. Those are the two options. Right. That's the only compensation or maybe in drinks.
Right. So that would be the interesting thing, and then the because he is. He's definitely in love with the art of stand-up, because even when he was doing the Tonight Show, he was doing 60, 70 gigs a year out doing, which is a lot if you're doing the Tonight Show 5 days a week. It's a lot. Yeah. It doesn't sound like a lot of work to somebody who's doing 200 shows a year, but for somebody who's doing the Tonight Show, which is 200 shows a year, and then going out and doing another 60 stand-up shows. So obviously he loves the craft, and he probably has great insight for people who are striving to get there.
Well, I recommend that you get a TV show and then become really popular after that, and then you can probably get a gig almost any comedy club you want. You don't even have to walk very far. I can perform at 19 clubs on my very block right there. People open up their door and they let me perform comedy in their living room. That's my Jay Leno. But
it wasn't bad. You need to work on slowing it down and doing the chin exaggeration just a little more, and then I think you got it. I think you're pretty close on the voice.
I've never tried it before. I mean, not before, but not.
You don't have the chin for it. You definitely don't have the
chin. Yeah, I think that affects the sound. I think I could maybe putty up the chin. If I could putty this up, make it, make the hair look like a chin, I could probably.
Or go for plastic surgery just to do an impression well. I get my chin extended. Or get a prosthesis, one of those fake chins. Chris Elliott had that fake chin he used to do, Leno, when he'd go on Letterman as Leno. That was fun. Yeah, but you know what? The other part of that is, did you ever imagine that comedy would lead to you becoming a billionaire or close to whatever he's worth? He's got to be close to $500 million at least through comedy. Like, I don't think but most people in their wildest dreams, millionaire sounds great. I mean, thousandaire sounds good to some people we know. But so the possibility of making that much money in comedy, it's for very few and far between. But
I expected to make my first $1 million by the time I was 30, and when I turned 30 and I was about $1 million short of hitting my goal, I was a little bit depressed. I was really depressed.
Missed it by that
by
much.
that much. I missed it by only 1 million. I only missed it by 1 million. Oh man.
Right. Let's talk politics a little more here. You know,
Okay.
Senator James Lankford. You know him.
Yes.
Oklahoma senator. He authored the bipartisan border patrol bill, and today it's coming back up for a vote, and he's voting against it. He's voting against the bill that he wrote, and he can't explain why, other than because the Democrats are using it as a prop now. But yeah, you wrote the bill. You must have believed in it. You think it's a good bill. You wouldn't write a bill you didn't think is a good bill. So it's all about owning the libs. It's not about really, I don't know. It's not about trying to help America out in any way. And he's complaining about people coming over the border. We got to do something to stop it. Well, you have the ability to do something to stop it. Sign, vote for the bill that you authored. Right. It's insane. That's to own the libs.
That's almost like having a child, raising a child, teaching your child to play baseball. They make the team, and then you don't go to the games because that team is, playing on the wrong side of the tracks.
Right.
That's now. Here's one for you. I don't know if you're aware of this or not. There's a city in Louisiana called Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge had an all-white enclave, a neighborhood that was like all rich, all white, all the time. And they have finally succeeded in seceding from Baton Rouge. They are now their own city. They have their own. They broke off.
What's it called?
The city is called St. George. They just broke off from Baton Rouge. They are an all-white, all rich, all the time city now.
St. George, Louisiana, and the corporation became the 5th largest city in Louisiana. A lot of white people there, 5th largest. Wow.
Yeah, and
all right, so maybe my brother should move there. I'll tell him about it. Oh, he's not rich. He's very poor.
No, because Louisiana, they've been trying to get separated from Baton Rouge for like 10, 15 years now. At least 1 decade, over a decade. And the Louisiana Supreme Court just approved, just said, okay, you can do it. You can have your little white town.
4-3 in favor of incorporating the news. Blah, 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 blah. So Mitch McConnell now has come out and said you have to, the Supreme Court decision 4-3. Mitch McConnell is like, people have to stop trying to mess with the Supreme Court. Like, wait a minute. Say that again. What? We live in bizarro world, man. I'm telling you.
Mr. Make up the rules as he goes along.
Yeah.
Like I said, he is an evil genius. I commend him. He's smart. He really knows his shit, he's the worst combination of intelligence, knowing his stuff, and having no conscience. The worst fucking combination. He is so good at his job.
More of that. I'm seeing more and more of these people who I know, or I feel very strongly that they know what they're doing is wrong, but they just don't have any fucking conscience.
His conscience is
I used to give them credit for being stupid, but they're not stupid. They're crazy like a fox.
That's why I have problems with lawyers. I think they're a necessary evil, but they're a necessary evil because they're evil. It takes a lawyer to stop a lawyer. Nothing stops a bad lawyer with a law like a good lawyer with the law. That's because.
Now you met Jeff yesterday. Do you think he's evil? Jeff's a good guy.
I think I think because he's a lawyer, he's evil. But because he's working for good, I think he's like one of the necessary evils. I'm sorry. I think to be a lawyer, you have to be evil. It's like elephants are just big, and you can have a gentle elephant, but he's still big, and at any moment he could turn on and kill you. People have lions for pets. The lion is an apex predator.
I don't think Jeff has that killer instinct in him. I really don't. I hear what you're saying.
Come along. I don't think the right case. I think the right case comes along, and he sinks his teeth into it, and he will shred people apart to win that case.
I think he's had the right case come along, and you know what he did? Instead of working on the case, he went and hiked in the Himalayas looking for God. Seriously,
then he's not a lawyer. Then he's not a lawyer. He's a human being with a law degree, and that's different.
Right.
He's not a lawyer.
Let's play some news and then have something to depress us. That's what I want. I need more depression. I hope Steven's all right. We know Ron is all right. He will be all right after he cries over and grieves over his dog. He'll be fine. But Steven, we're not so sure. Anyway, here's the news with Al, our buddy Al. I like to call him Al.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams defended the police department's response to a pro-Palestinian street demonstration in Brooklyn over the weekend.
Look at that entire incident, Adams said on the Mornings on One program on the local cable news channel NY1. He complained that protesters who marched through Brooklyn's Bay Ridge section on Saturday had blocked traffic, spit at officers, and in one instance, climbed on top of a moving city bus. Liam White reporting.
The death of Iran's president is unlikely to lead to any immediate changes in Iran's ruling system or to its overarching policies.
Ebrahim Raisi, who died in a helicopter crash Sunday, was seen as a prime candidate to succeed the 85-year-old supreme leader, and his death makes it more likely that the job could eventually go to Khamenei's son. A hereditary succession would pose a potential crisis of legitimacy for the Islamic Republic. Joseph Eckerson reporting.
Cyber attacks against water utilities across the country are becoming more frequent and more severe, the Environmental Protection Agency warned.
Approximately 70% of utilities inspected by federal officials over the last year violated standards meant to prevent breaches or other intrusions, the agency said. Officials urged even small water systems to improve protections against hacks. Recent cyber attacks by groups affiliated with Russia and Iran have targeted smaller communities. Jim Kender reporting.
Israeli anti-government activists clashed with police on the Tel Aviv-Jerusalem highway as they demanded the government resign over its failure to gain the release of hostages held by Hamas.
Protesters from various anti-government organizations, including Brothers in Arms, engaged in confrontations with law enforcement officials on the major roadway connecting Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. According to Brothers in Arms, 13 of its members stood on the sidelines holding pictures of the hostages and Israeli flags before being arrested after obstructing traffic flow. Benjamin Wright reporting.
Why do we need the music in the middle, Al? We could do away with the middle. I think he's just trying to stretch it out. So I gave you 5 minutes of news. Well, so far we got 2 minutes.
An Ohio law prohibiting cities from banning the sale of flavored tobacco products is unconstitutional, a judge has ruled.
The state is expected to appeal the ruling issued Friday by Franklin County Common Pleas Court Judge Mark Serrett, who had issued a temporary restraining order in April that stopped the law from taking effect. The measure had become law in January after the Republican legislature overrode GOP Governor Mike DeWine's veto. Kevin Sanders reporting.
The White House said that the chairman of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation will step down.
This is a departure that follows the release earlier this month of a damning report about the agency's toxic workplace culture. The White House said Martin Gruenberg will step down once a successor is appointed and that President Joe Biden will name a replacement soon. Lawrence Keller reporting.
The cargo ship that struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore nearly 2 months ago was moved from the crash site for the first time on Monday morning.
The Dolly, a 984-foot-long and 158-foot-wide container ship, had been partially blocking the entrance to one of America's busiest ports since the March 26th collision that triggered a catastrophic collapse of the bridge and killed 6 workers. Kyle Norris reporting.
A 10-year-old boy who was swept into a storm drain while helping his family clean up storm debris is being kept on life support so that his organs can be donated, according to his father.
The boy, Asher Sullivan, officially passed away on May 18th, but remains on life support to facilitate the organ donation process. His dad, Jimmy Sullivan, wrote in a Facebook post, "It's 100% an Asher-type thing to do and continuing to be selfless," Sullivan shared on Facebook. Jessica Oakley reporting.
I'm sorry for my headlines with Alan Edwards. Little giggle at that. But the storm drains I'm familiar with
are just like these gratings with how does a kid get swept into one of those?
Yeah.
Obviously, I have the wrong picture in mind, but excuse me for giggling a little bit about that. I just don't see how that's even possible. I got to ask you about this flavored tobacco thing.
Well, I want to know. I just want to do real quick. That guy says that they got the kid on life support, and he says it's just like him to be selfless. It's like the kid did not choose to either. He didn't choose to be swept in this drain. He didn't choose to
no
be put
kids
on life
have an
support.
NDR, right?
Right, and he didn't choose to donate his organs. So why is like his father's one is being selfless? Not the kid. The kid didn't have an option.
For the father, it would be selfish because he's making the kid hang on if he has no chance to live on his own without life support. He's just prolonging the suffering, which maybe he's a fan of the program and enjoys the suffering.
Yes, he's a fan of the program. He's taken that slogan to heart.
It's very strange.
Evil is blaming it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a storm drain. Like some of the news needs clarification, Al.
They need to ban balloon. They need to ban red balloons. That's how the kid got lured in there, either by red balloon
99
or by
love balloons. But this flavored cigarette, tobacco stuff. How is that any more dangerous than regular tobacco? I don't get why they want to ban flavor because the kids can't buy it anyway, right?
Well, you were a kid once, right? I'm sure you were a kid once.
I was. It was. They didn't. There was no law when I was a kid. You could buy cigarettes at 4 years old. I used to buy it for my parents all the time. Go buy cigarettes.
Yeah, I used to
buy my grandparents.
I used to buy for my mom also. She used to send me to the store to get Herbert Tarringtons. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But that's beside the point. But I'm saying is that nowadays the kids can't go through the counter to get the cigarettes, but they can pay somebody to get the cigarettes for them, and because when something tastes good, you want it in your mouth, and you don't care how you get it. So that's true for cigarettes and hookers. So
if there are any kids with enough money to make it worthwhile for me, I will go buy you flavored tobacco or whatever.
Exactly.
My price is pretty high though. $100 a pack. That's my price.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. It's really $20 a pack. I'm just kidding. It's really
that's what cigarettes cost. Cigarettes cost $20 a pack now, don't they?
I would not. Yeah, I probably go somewhere up around that. Anyway, the news is all about this Israeli-Palestine conflict, and I am extremely ignorant around the actual origins of Palestine. And I was trying to look it up and get a straight story yesterday on the internet. There are so many conflicting stories about who actually had the land going back thousands of years, and Palestine was only a thing from like the year 350. The Ottoman Empire knocked out the Romans, who were establishing it as a Christian enclave. So the Jews weren't there, but the Jews had it before the Christians did. All that stuff is just confusing to me. But the end of the day is these pro-Palestinian people, I'm talking about the political people politicizing it as a U.S. issue on Twitter. They're talking about how many Palestinians have to die before the U.S. changes their policy. You're okay with Jews dying, but Palestinians, not dying. I mean, we could turn the question around. How many Jews have to die before you change your mind? Or how many humans have to die before you're like me and say, we're hopeless. We are hopeless as a race of people. We're just going to continue to kill each other forever and ever. War is part of our condition, and we might as well just have the asteroid hit right now because we suck as a race.
I think we can get rid of war if we just get rid of the reasons that we fight. So if we just get rid of the resources, land, and women, and what else do we fight over? Religion. Yeah. So all we got to just get rid of religion, land, resources, and women. There'll be no more wars because we won't be fighting over women. We won't be fighting over land. We won't be fighting over water. We won't be fighting over resources. And once we get rid of all of that, the wars will stop. Probably because we'll die of extinction, but
Yeah.
ended all of the wars.
Right. All right. Well, our second guest is not a no-show today. He's here. Actually, I think he was scheduled previously for the evening program, which we had some difficulty hooking up for. Jeffrey Charles Hardy is here to present us with Care for Peace, his global mandate to secure a second human evolution in perpetuity. Now, before I bring him in, I just have to say, you would think with a subject matter like that this is the first guest that I've had on to talk about these things. But nay, not even the second guest to talk about this very idea, but the third guest I've had on in 6 years' time doing this to talk about this. And I am extremely skeptical. I'm extremely skeptical about, as I just said, I think humanity doesn't deserve another chance. So hopefully he can change our mind, or my mind. I don't know where your mind is.
Well, my mind is stuck on the first evolution. I don't know what the first evolution was, and if
we live in a time where there is lots of denial about evolution. But let's bring him in, welcome in Jeffrey Charles Hardy to the program. Jeffrey, welcome.
Well, thank you. I've been listening to you talking, and I absolutely like what you just did. You backed up when talking about this Palestine-Israeli thing and said, let's look at humanity. What are we doing? This is ridiculous. Why are we killing everybody? Why is everybody killing each other? So I really appreciate that. That was as perfect a segue into what I'm talking about as anything could be. Thank you.
I agree. It was a good segue, and I'm not giving myself credit for it. It's a world that we live in, and because, as I mentioned, you're not the first person who's talked about the future of humanity on this program. I've had a couple of guys who talked about their belief that the population can go to like 25 billion, and we could still live on this planet, and they say, and still live on this planet peacefully. And I was like, when was there ever peace, even when we were at 1 billion people? Right. So 25 billion seemed like out of the question for me.
Yeah, if you believe in the Bible, you just go back to when there were like a handful of people. Abel was killing Cain. No, Cain was killing Abel. So it's like, and they had plenty of resources. There's no reason to fight.
Right. So I'm really Jeffrey, with you. I'm with you. I don't know whether we can change human nature, but at least we can back up and look at it. And so that's when I started talking about the idea of the first human evolution being over, because it started 2.5 million years ago. And then you read all the history, or at least what we call history, where people killing each other in tribes and countries and everything else, killing. And, at some point we got to where humans controlled nature and we had mutually assured destruction. And so I arbitrarily chose the mid-60s as the end of the first human evolution, because what we're in right now is the suspended human evolution, where we're all smart enough to think about it and smart enough to back up and look at it, but also saying, what the hell are we doing in Israel, and what are we doing in all these countries? Why are we progressing all this hatred and bullshit? Why don't we just stop? And look at it.
Stop, because from what you just said, I don't think they're looking and saying, what are we doing? They've changed the question from what are we doing to how can we profit from it?
Ouch.
Well, right. I'm going to show the book just for a second. It's covering my face. Generally, we have 3 other guys here in a whole different layout, so this would be between you and I wouldn't be covering myself up. Look, the book has hands, but I'm showing the cover. It's called The Care for Peace. Yeah. It's called the Care for Peace Manifesto. Tell us about the book and the optimism that must have driven the book. Where does that come from?
Well, the optimism just comes from who I am. I was a hospital corpsman in the Coast Guard Reserves, okay? And so I took care of guys who were coming back from the Vietnam War, and they were soldiers, and all of a sudden I realized that this feeling I was having when I was caring was peace. And it wasn't the kind of peace where you have between two wars or sitting up on top of a mountain, with your arms crossed and everything. It was just a feeling of peace. And so I met women all over the world, nurses all over the world when I was working in Nigeria, Vietnam, Myanmar, the Caribbean hospitals. These nurses all they all knew what Care for Peace is. I'm not talking about something that's new. I'm talking about something that I discovered myself and then realized that everybody else knows what Care for Peace is. Teachers seem to know. There's a bunch of feelings that we already have. And so I tapped into it. I helped hospitals in the United States, and then I flipped my whole career and helped people all over the world who were living in the most destitute environments and built clinics where nobody had even had seen a doctor before. Okay. And I realized that Care for Peace is something that is already there. I didn't have to get that. So I named my nonprofit organization Care for Peace. And then we built a prototype in Myanmar, and they were really open because Aung San Suu Kyi said, let's do it. We built one that was perfect. We were going to build 250 of these. And then all of a sudden, the military junta came along and did a Donald Trump and overthrew the government and just, blew us out of the water. So the whole idea of the first human evolution that I think is over coming into where we are now, we got to use our brains. We got to use our history. We got to use what we really want. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you, GD. Is it Feddersen? I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's we've got major problems when it comes to corporate and the purchasing and all the stuff. How many states in the United States have Department of Defense contracts? So how people are elected in this country. They're going to preserve what they have in their states. So it's a mess. It's very difficult for us to move ahead.
Matt, if you don't mind me, Matt, you can swap places with me and put the book up in my place, and I'll just slide over. That way, people can see the book.
No, we'll deal with it. I'll figure out something along the way. Let's. How about this? And we could.
Man.
This will work.
You're a
and
genius.
then I could show the book.
You're a freaking genius.
I've only been doing this 6 years. I should have figured out that by now that we could do it this way. Anyway,
well, I've been telling everybody that all they have to do is get the book and read the cover and then the back cover blurb. That's it. They don't have to read anything in between.
But they should just pay for the book.
I like the peace sign little snow globe thing that's on the cover there. That's pretty cool.
Sorry.
But does the book lay out a plan of any kind, or?
Well, I'm a pre-planner. I am a pre-planner. I'm a facilitator and I'm a pre-planner. So what that means is that I go into a healthcare system where they say, oh, we want a new hospital, and say, well, back up, guys, back up. Let's look at the situation and decide what it is that your community really needs. And that isn't always, in fact, it's not ever a big, huge, gigantic hospital that they want to build. So I lay out what that pre-planning process is, but it begins with understanding that we start with who we are and what we give with our hearts and our heart hands. We have to start with our individual selves, because that's the human nature part that we need to bring into the discussion. Okay, that's number one. Number two.
Oh, wait a minute. You're saying I need to work on myself? We're done. I can't work on myself.
Don't work on yourself. You already have it. I know that because I was listening to you talking already before you brought me on. I mean, you already have it. You already care for peace. Well, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing if you didn't have that in your spirit. And I will tell you, I've talked a lot of podcasters who are what I call global podcasters. You guys are carrying the ball right now of what it is we're talking about. I'm delighted to hear that I'm number 3. I hope that I'm number 3 in many discussions that you have, because you are doing something that our government leaders aren't doing, our pundits aren't doing. They're just talking to people who want to listen to you. You guys are talking to people all over the world who are hearing this stuff a lot of times for the first time, and they need to go, oh, that's interesting. I mean, that's in my human nature. Oh, well, that's really interesting. No, I'm sorry. Hey, you can't back up from what you're already doing.
Right. Well, Tony Wall, who is from the Noesis Project, who was the first guy to talk about human sustainability, and we have to address this problem. He had, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he had some ideas, but he's very flexible but he is definitely of the belief that mankind as a human race is worth saving into perpetuity, and that not only is it worth saving, but it's very doable that all these things that we're talking about can be achieved. It's like, you know what, I'm a born pessimist, but I'm a pessimist with a lot of evidence to back up my pessimism about the human race. So as GD pointed out, I don't know if we can go back to creationism, but I think war has been part of our makeup since there were two people or one person, or since we crawled out of the ocean or whatever we did. So I'm not very hopeful on this stuff. So the question becomes, is it really worth saving? Or, because we hear about this all the time, like, we got to do this for future generations of humanity. Why not just let it just die out? Those, death is part of life for a reason. Not that I want to die tomorrow, but I don't feel like we owe the universe mankind's future.
I would start with myself. And when my father was dying in his deathbed, the nurses were taking care of him. And sure, the earth might be dying, but let's take care of it. Let's assume that our fantasies, our dreams are correct. And one of the things I wanted to share with you, I don't know if I can put this
let me put you on the full screen for a second. See if we can do. There you go.
I don't know if you can see that, but I've got 4 templates that are in this book, and this is talking about my prime directive, and this is where we start. And then the next template is the relational template that talks about our prime directive together and how we need to be looking at how we take care of that dying patient. Then the third template is something that I wrote over many years that really answers to the Karl Marx problem, which is to everyone according to their need, from everyone according to their ability. And I said, wait a minute, there's a spiritual component. And so the third template is just simply looking at the physical and the spiritual components of our prime directive, so that our organizational template is something that we follow and something that we can do in our process. And that's why at the very bottom of the book cover, you can see a quote that says, "The process is the solution." Because those nurses who were caring for my dying father, they were getting little water swabs, like on little Q-tips, and putting them in his mouth so that he could not just taste it, but feel the moisture on his tongue. And I'm saying, oh my God, these ladies know how to help this dying patient. So our job is to care for the peace, the way the nurse was caring for the peace of my father as he was dying. Now, I'm responding really to your comments about, hey, why don't we just let it go? But I'm saying you're not letting it go. You're proof that you're not letting it go. And I'm glad you're not letting it go, because you're carrying a ball that nobody else, frankly, is carrying. And that's why these podcasts are suddenly really popular in this world. And you are really popular. So thank you.
Wait, I must have missed that part. But I appreciate what you just said, and I agree with the caring for even the planet as it looks to be on its last leg. That's important, and I would not walk away from anyone who actually needed care, or in our motto here is enjoy the suffering. But if you're truly suffering, I want to help with that suffering. But I don't necessarily feel like, if somebody wants to be at peace, like with my mother, she came here to hospice in my home. And we stayed with her while she was dying. We knew that we weren't going to keep her alive forever, and it was time for her to go. Let her go as peacefully as possible, ease the suffering as much as possible, but accept that all things must pass. And that's part of the nature of things, and I feel that way about the human race. I'm not saying we should stop caring. Indeed, we should care more for each other and try to ease each other's suffering and make the world a better place as we surf into the sunset together on this rock, rather than just treat each other with meanness and all that stuff. But I think both of those can coexist. The idea that maybe we're fighting against death when death is a natural part of life, and even if it's a global death or a race death, a death of the human race, make it as peaceful a transition as possible.
Yeah, but I'm not ready to die, and I don't think I'm that close to death that I can look at death as my prime directive. And my prime directive is to live, to care for people, to care for other people, to give as much as I can during this life. And I think my children and my grandchildren are going to do just fine. I think that we got to help them out by giving them a process, because if you don't have a process to get there, then forget the journey as the reward. What journey? You aren't going to be on a journey unless you plan it, and you can't plan it unless you realize that there is a process called pre-planning and planning and designing and implementing, and that's where I'm at, because I'm a planner. That's what I did for 50 years in my life. So I think that we can use the same tools that I've used to design healthcare systems, and also to interest an entire country, which was Myanmar before the coup, that Care for Peace was a way forward. It was a way that we could use what we already have to move and plan the second human evolution.
Now, I have a question for you that's a little bit off kilter, but how old is that map behind you? Because I'm checking out the names of the countries, and
wow, you're good. I can't see any of the names.
Okay, that's Myanmar right there.
Right.
And it is absolutely not a new map, because I got it on the internet because I needed something that I could put behind me. So I don't know the answer to your question. It might be.
It's a Rand McNally 1920s. No, it wasn't Myanmar. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because depending on what country the map was made in, usually the country that the map is made in, that country is made larger than it actually is proportion-wise. So a map made in China would be like 10% larger than it actually is.
Well, it probably is. You're right. Yeah. Hey, I had a hard time getting a map that didn't have the United States right in the center. Okay. So
yeah,
I had to search around for this one.
Very weird. Let's.
Good observation.
This is an important analogy here, because you're talking about healthcare, and that's where you spent 40 years of your life, in the healthcare industry. And it is an industry, which is bizarre, because as a people, that we figure out a way to industrialize care, which is it seems odd to me. But I've had a lot of people who have been in the healthcare industry on. We talk about the problems with it, and you talked about nurses and their giving nature. I find more, and I'm married to a nurse, so I feel qualified to say this. All her friends, all her colleagues, all nurses are a little bit crazy, a little bit broken, and I think that the system does that to them. But the overwhelming consensus of all the guests that I've talked to in the healthcare field say the biggest problem is not funding and
and where the money comes from and all that is a problem. But the biggest problem is exhaustion. Exhaustion leading among the medical professionals, leading to breaking down of empathy. The reason that they got to be caretakers in the first place was their drive to be empathetic, and the system that we have beats that out of them by exhaustion and overworking them and just taking advantage of them. What is your take on that?
Oh my God. Well, you just touched one of my buttons that I was speaking in national conferences about this. I'm not into patient-focused care because nurses already focus on their patients. I'm into nursing-focused care in a hospital. And because of that, I designed an appropriate hospital where nurses didn't have to walk down hotel-like corridors to get to one of their patients at the far end that was behind a bathroom they couldn't even see. So I found a hospital that had designed an ICU CCU unit in Glendale, California, that had scrunched that whole thing up. No corridors. It was a big rectangular box with windows on the outside of a boardroom table, and the nurses could talk with each other just like you and I are talking right now. And let's say you're on this desk, and I look at you and I say, "Hey, the patient behind you just pulled out his trach. You better get up and go help him." None of this walking down corridors, because the exhaustions that the nurses get from getting a call from the patient pushes a button. And how many times have you heard your wife talk about those patients are constant and the beeping that's going on at the nursing unit because the patients are pushing the button and nobody's coming, and how come no nurses are here? I dedicated my life to those nurses so that they wouldn't have to be listening to buttons being pushed and beeping in the background. And I got nurses to cry. I mean, I didn't try, but I'd look in the audience and they'd be crying because they're going, "Oh my God, thank you. That's what we need. That's what we need."
Couldn't you just mute the buttons so they wouldn't have to listen to them? They don't have to hear it. That way the patient is, pushing a button because they're feeling they're doing something, and the nurse doesn't have to hear the.
That would definitely be good. Somebody talking about empathy, demonstrating none.
Well, I'm just saying, half the time they don't want anything anyway. They just want attention. So turn the hospital beds to face each other instead of side by side. Let them face each other and talk to each other instead of side by side.
Is your middle name Florence Nightingale? Because that's what she did. Florence Nightingale took over an old church and she stuck patients in the same room, and it was great. And by the way, one of the hospitals I worked at, Curacao, Netherlands Antilles, had 900 patients, and they were in these big, huge open wards. They didn't mind. It worked just fine. It's here in America and in some other first world countries.
Right. Well, let me just interrupt here because my wife isn't home yet, so I can say this freely without getting beat up.
And you want to say it before she gets home. I got you.
Yeah. No, she just texted me. She's actually at the car having my car washed. And she's online. She was just complaining about how long the line's taking.
It's not even your birthday.
This is good. No, it's not my birthday. She wants to use my car for something to go get with her family. That's why she's having my car washed.
Okay.
But her chief complaint about the nursing industry, but she doesn't even know that this is her chief complaint, even though I pointed out to her, because this is what she's really saying, is that understaffing, and almost every facility is understaffed, and the reason, and she doesn't articulate this, the reason that it's understaffed is just corporate greed. They want to keep the profits up, so putting 2 more nurses on that it would take to actually take care of the residents or whoever is in whatever facility, patients in some facilities, residents in other facilities, putting on the nurses that it would require to take care of them to a sufficient standard cuts into the corporate profit so much. A billionaire can't afford to give up another $40,000 a year plus benefits and all that stuff because it's just too much to ask to give people proper care. So the question I have is that only in America, or is that is it a worldwide epidemic of
only in America?
Greed?
as much as I can tell, it's only in America. And the thing you have to always remember is that a hospital is designed for clinical delivery. That's not care. Care and clinical delivery are two different things. Nurses care because it's something that comes from their hearts, and it's their how when it comes to clinical delivery. When they give a shot, they don't go they give a shot gently, this, okay, here's a Band-Aid. Why the hell do they put a Band-Aid over a shot? It beats the hell out of me, so clinical delivery is the reason for the hospitals. And so what we do now in America is we have regulations. There is a regulation that in a intensive care and a cardiac care unit, it has to be a 1 nurse to 2 patients. Well, see, I'm 1-to-1. I have put 1:1 on blackboards behind me at meetings and saying, look, this is a place where we need to have 1 caregiver with 1 patient. I'll give you an example. You go to Holland and you look at every dying patient has a 1-to-1 ratio with a caregiver. And when I was in Holland with my great aunt Mary, who was dying at the age of 89 years old in Amsterdam, Holland, she had a caregiver every day. Caregiver? What's a caregiver? Well, one of the ladies that was a caregiver for her when I was there was one of the nighttime prostitutes. And she was caring for my great aunt in such a wonderful way, because care was part of her. She wasn't a nurse, but boy, she really knew how to care. And don't get me started, and don't start doing analogies, or I'll start having to laugh my head off.
I could use some care from in that regard from before my wife gets home.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I answered your question, but the fact is, your wife is absolutely right. The corporate greed has taken over, that it's really tough for nurses, and the only way that we can help is 2 things. It's with regulation, and it's also Joint Commission. Joint Commission is a highly respected organization that looks at every single hospital, acute care hospital, and any other kinds of step down or rehabilitation hospital. So
I'm sorry, I just mistakenly thought that Joint Commission was therapeutic marijuana, medicinal marijuana. That's what I thought Joint Commission was. That's what I thought you were going. You lost me.
They've changed their name to Bond Commission. So
yeah, you and me both. I'd much rather your definition. So let's just agree.
Well,
with
here
that.
again, I repulse myself with my own pessimism here. But the human condition being what it is, it feels like as individuals, this is so far above where we can make a difference as individuals that it requires organization. Once organization stops, the worst of human nature comes out, and we all start power, whatever our corrupt, worst parts of ourselves comes out when we organize. And so it feels helpless to me. Explain to me why we're not helpless to our own evil side, darkness within our souls.
I mean, look at what you've just organized. You are an example of the kind of organization we need. I wouldn't be here if you hadn't organized this meeting so that we could share our perceptions, because that's the first stage of pre-planning. We got to share our ideas and share and start talking about those ideas. Why am I saying process is the solution, not what AT&T said, that the system is a solution? System isn't the solution. System is the result of a process, if it's the right process.
Yeah.
The process
systems is about making a process rigid and non-flexible, so that we always do. We did it this way. We've always done it this way. We'll always do it this way.
Yes.
And it de-incentivizes critical thinking and coming up with real workable changing and an adaptation to problems as they evolve. As the problems evolve, the solutions never do.
What's interesting to me is that you come off as being a cynic, and yet I don't think you have a cynic's perception. I think that you have a realist perception.
I think that's fair.
And a realist is someone who can look at this experiment in green, as Emily Dickinson said, as if he was a clown and his own. You got to have fun doing what you're doing. And
yeah.
I like, and that's what you're doing. And I don't think you can say there isn't organization, because you're doing the most important kind of organization there is right now, and that is getting that dialogue going. Getting the
I hope so,
moving.
but here's the thing: it's a very small organization at this point. I think as we grow, and I've seen this, and this is why it's grown and then shrunk again and grown. Generally, there are 4 people co-hosting this program, 3 co-hosting and myself. But it's gone to 1, 2, 3, all sorts of numbers. But we've seen. I think the larger something gets, the more ability it has to become corrupt. But just to back up, the perception of me as being a cynic, I have that same perception of myself. I think my frustration with the human race and how we are progressing, and my impatience with my 65 years on this planet, and seeing that, things have not improved in my lifetime in demonstrable ways. Now, if I sit down and really measure every little thing, I could say the world is a better place today than it's ever been in a lot of ways. But it doesn't feel like that, and the impatience enhances that perception of me being a cynic, when I would love to be wrong about all my pessimism. I love to be proven wrong when I have a pessimistic impulse and something good happens. So
yeah, I don't think your pessimism is endemic pessimism. It's operational pessimism.
That's true.
Operational pessimism. Pessimism is what you use to think. Cynicism, operational cynicism, is what you use to think, because you've got to look at options. You've got to look at, okay, this isn't working, because inside of our brains, we have to say, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what might work again, what shouldn't we never do again. I mean, we've got to have those 4 questions, challenges to everything we do. And you have to have pessimism and cynicism, at least the operational kind, to be able to do what you're doing. So
you're right. Yeah. But now, GD, did you have something to add? You look like your lips wanted to move.
They did. No, I'm just saying, well, it's very pertinent, actually. I was just thinking that operational cynicism was the initial name of that game before they shortened it to just Operation. That was
the man has kids. Yes.
They shortened the name because it's cheaper, saves ink.
I was the model for that game.
One of my stethoscopes.
One of the things that my greatest accomplishments of life is laying still for 20 minutes while they took my photograph and made it into a game.
That's great.
Talk isn't enough, though, Jeffrey. So action is required to make any kind of change. Where does the individual begin on an action level of this? Because we could talk about it and drive awareness to it all we want, but at the end of the day, if all we're doing is talking, nothing's going to change. Where do we start to actually put a plan and
I would say
action?
that this isn't an end of the day discussion. This is an end of the era discussion, because we've got to realize that we are at the beginning of a new era, and that is to design the second human evolution. And the first sentence in my book will say pretty much what I believe, and that is, to care for peace might not be the secret of life, but it's as close to the secret of living there is. And I think that the discussion needs to start with looking at how we care for peace and this discussion needs to go to our kids, our grandkids, our friends, our relatives, to the world. But it's just starting with you. It's just starting with me. I wrote that book right there. I mean, that book right there has sold, so few copies. I probably have given away more books than I've sold. I mean, it's like.
Are you sure you're not a comedian? Because that's how it is with my T-shirts and DVDs.
Touche. Yeah. So we're starting a conversation. Feel good about starting the conversation. We could look at the half cup, half full stuff. Half empty, half full stuff. I look at the cup and say, let's fill it up.
Yeah. Breath of fresh air. You're the first author who has admitted to not selling 1 million hardcover copies of their book. And I've been in the publishing industry enough to know that even the people who sell it or end up on the bestsellers, most of that stuff is rigged. Amazon,
right.
There are so many tricks to get your stuff in different categories. It could be a bestseller on and all that stuff. But generally, because the publishing industry is definitely a difficult industry to get in. People not interested so much in books; they want it read to them. But
right.
Coming back to the younger generation, the youth, the younger generation. Everybody's the younger generation for me. From my perspective, everybody.
Yeah.
But the youth, I find passion, interest in things beyond themselves that are bigger than themselves is a very rare occurrence. I think and I don't know how, because when I was young, I did care. I did care about humanity. I did care about things bigger than myself. It seems that the younger people are lost today in the message of fame is a reward. If you're nobody unless you're rich and famous, and if everybody has to know you, part of your legacy should be that everybody will celebrate you in the way like we celebrate pop stars and movie stars and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's the only mindset that the youth is given today. And I don't know how we change that, because I do think if there's going to be any hope for anything, it has to start with how we communicate to young people and get them back on track in understanding that this world they came into is more than just what they see on television or the internet or TikTok and all that kind of stuff. How do you, is there a plan for communicating to the youth?
I don't know. I mean, social media is out there and Taylor Swift is out there.
Do you have any young people in your organization? Because they're not going to listen to people like you with gray hair, and me with no hair, and him with like funny, weird Jamaican hair.
No, my organization is filled with doctors and nurses and world leaders. I mean, that's what Care for Peace, the nonprofit organization, is with, because these are people that I worked with at the top levels of the healthcare organization, and I borrowed a couple of them to help me with the nonprofit side, and they had absolutely no problem doing it. So, but youth, no, I don't have one young person involved.
We got to recruit them somehow. We have to because young people are only going to listen to young people. That's what I feel like.
True. And so what you need to do, Jeffrey, is you need to go out and make some babies so that you can have young people growing up. And not only that, because
either that or just start rapping and TikTok stuff.
Well, because they're your babies, they'll grow up with your philosophy, and then they can, inherit your heart and your goal and make it so.
Well,
so what you're saying is, mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Don't let your babies grow up to be healthcare planners. I am actually doing this podcast thing as practice for me to get back on the stage. I was on the stage quite a bit when I was in the healthcare business. So I'd be invited to be in seminars and conferences and things like that. So I'm used to being in front of people, but I'm not used to being in front of people with this whole Care for Peace idea and this first human evolution, second human evolution. So you good folk are helping me with the right questions and trying to formulate the answers so that at some point I can get on a stage and talk. I'm aiming at probably college kids first, because I think they're the melting pot of one of those influencers. So younger than that, yeah, maybe. But I'm looking really at
I think it's important.
kids.
I think what you
we have to say goodbye to let me say goodbye to Govs, and let make sure I don't press the wrong. Don't press the wrong button again. That would be terrible. Anyway, Governor's Comedy Club. We'll see you tomorrow when Chris Monty, who will be headlining Govs in July, but he's got some other shows to talk about tomorrow. He'll be